Hi, I'm John Rebecki, your host for In Reality, Lessons from Leaders and Entrepreneurs. Our focus today is entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurs exhibit several common behaviors, including personal initiative, creative thinking, organizing skills, and resilience. Let's keep these concepts in mind as we listen to our guest, Jennifer Salta, owner of Unmarked Industries. She is a 30-year-old entrepreneur that started a jewelry design and production company. She was recently a featured artist at a national trade show and is taking a unique approach to how fashion jewelry is marketed and manufactured. Her business is focused on producing distinctive products that fight fast fashion with bespoke, custom handcrafted pieces. She describes herself as a proud member of the Makers Movement, designing, producing, and creating meaningful, wearable, unusual art while remaining committed to reducing the environmental impact of the industry by using mostly recycled metals and ethically sourced materials. Jennifer is joining me at NYIT's Old Westbury campus on Long Island, New York for today's recording. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me.
I'd like to start with talking about the genesis, the beginnings of your business, and the journey that sort of got you to starting your own company.
Yeah, so after about 10 years of working in the corporate design world, designing jewelry and accessories for some big box stores in the US and the UK, I was working with a lot of factories overseas, developing here, doing mostly computer and design work, and then having it translated and actually developed overseas in China and India and Thailand. Over that time, I was kind of seeing that there was like a huge disconnect between the consumer and the manufacturer, and I wanted to find a way to bridge that.
What was that? Define that disconnect that you saw, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, I think we were coming out of a time where we had already trained the consumer to not really be as concerned or really not care about where their product was being produced. So like the where and how the product was being made. And I think now there has really been a movement where people want a more honest experience with their, where they're putting their dollars. And by knowing, like tracing back where the materials are and finding necessarily being more connected to the manufacturer.
Okay, to the manufacturer and to the artists and artisans, so the people that are actually developing and then also all the way through the supply chain?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So tell me about the brand. Tell me about your company's name is Unmarked Industries. What does that brand mean to the consumer?
So Unmarked Industries is all about bringing unique product to the consumer in a way that's transparent. So you're going to know that every material is recycled or it's ethically sourced, and it's all manufactured here in America in small batch quantities.
So it's really connecting the consumer back to that artisan and then having a vision or a view into where it's made.
Right. It's offering an honest experience between the consumer and the manufacturer and really humanizing that person and bringing them from behind the manufacturing stage.
And you saw that missing in sort of your experience in the corporate world?
Yeah, I did feel that there was a big disconnect between the consumer and the people who were in the stores purchasing and who was making these products, in the fact that if you understand how things are made, if we educate the consumer more, they're going to care more. And there was a hunger for that. People really wanted that. They want to see how things are being made.
And so you're working in that world, and at some point you must have felt compelled or realizing that this didn't feel satisfying. So what was the genesis of that? How did you bring yourself to say, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to start my own business?
Right. I did see a lot of waste going on in the fashion industry. People were going in to purchase an outfit. Every woman has had this experience where you go into a store and you're going to buy a shirt, a skirt, and a new pair of earrings for about $35 or $45, and you're going to wear them one night, and then that product can be disposed. So that's one part of the problem. But then there was also the manufacturing problem, where there was a lot of, maybe there's some chargebacks or things that were produced incorrectly, and they were being destroyed or disposed of in unethical ways that I had some qualms with, especially when you could be recycling those things.
All right, so that part was missing, and then was there a moment where you said, okay, I've got to do something, I'm going to make a change? Tell me about that.
Well, I started developing this idea on ways that we could do more local manufacturing, and so that we could have more control over the product and how it was being produced. And I had some people on board, but ultimately it wasn't these larger design firms' concern. They were just a little bit more about, okay, this way is working. We have the market for this. I'm not necessarily concerned about the future market of this. And, me being a young person in the industry felt that this was my opportunity to really cause a ripple effect and get on board with these other people in this mindset and go out and do it myself.
Well, was there that point where you decided to sit down? I've got all these thoughts in my head. I'm going to write them down. I'm going to develop a plan. Tell me about that process, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, after I was seeing these issues going on in the manufacturing side, but I was really only in the design world, I decided to get a little bit more down to business, and I got a job working in a domestic manufacturing factory, and I learned every aspect of manufacturing. So it wasn't just designing something that looked pretty. It was designing something and figuring a way to maybe use a little bit less material or reuse something here and so on and so forth to make the product better and also more eco-friendly. And then from there, as I was working for them, I figured out a way to kind of bring that little millennial sense to it in how can I really brand this factory? How can I make this a destination not only for the consumer, but for other designers to say, hey, I'm going to work with this person, and it's a collaboration. Because I am a big into the makers movement, and within that community, we're all about collaboration over competition because we want to make a change.
Now, one of the things that I had read about the makers movement is it's all about recycling and repurposing, pulling things back in, minimizing the waste, and not only necessarily from an environmental standpoint, but also from the utility of using materials so they don't have to go out and mine new materials.
Right, especially when it comes to metals and castings and things like that. There is a lot of offcuts of metals, and a lot of those things can be melted down and recasted and repurposed into different things. So if you are the actual manufacturer and you're factory direct with yourself, you can really control that more. Like, what are you reusing as opposed to discarding? What, if you can't melt it down and make your own ingots, could you send that off to a refinery and work that way as well? Mm-hmm. So now you're putting your metals back into the system as opposed to just getting like fresh ore.
Got it. Now, again, I apologize. Maybe I'm going to ask this a little different way. So, you did you actually prepare an actual business plan when you set out to open this business?
Well, as I was working for that factory domestically, I started to figure out, okay, so how am I going to communicate this to other people about what I want to do? Because the scale of it was just so big. So I did start to form a business plan. And what I figured out was that really what I'm talking about when in my head I'm saying I want my own line, but I also want to work for the people, is multiple streams of revenue. So I gave myself a little bit of a crash course through writing this business plan and rewriting it. And through that I learned and I made a blueprint. And sometimes they were actual flow charts and physical visual paths that I could follow. And I still have those tacked up on my walls today, and I follow them.
So interesting because you're an artist, and by having a visual representation of the path that you've set for yourself, sort of helps you then keep on track, I would think.
It does. Even if I have to divert and course correct and change things, it definitely reminds me of my core values and why I started this. So when I start to stray too much, I also will always know, okay, maybe it's okay if I don't go down that avenue because this is what I really care about. Or yeah, if I do take this job, it's still going to lead me to my ultimate goal, so I'm going to do it.
So you and I spoke earlier. You're not a business major.
No, I'm not.
Tell me about your college education, your background.
So I attended SUNY Purchase, and I have a BFA in Design Technology, which is actually a theater degree. So I learned costume design and set design. So it was a lot of architectural history and costume history, and I'm a trained seamstress, So,
but when you're working in theater, normally you're working from director's notes and a script. So there's always a plan, isn't there?
Yeah, it is. It's very detailed and very plan oriented. And also when you're working on a show, you have these big budgets to manage. So I really learned how to work within a budget. And this goes back to knowing how to make jewelry and learning that manufacturing side. I know how to cut a budget and figure out where I can rearrange and move. So I think unknowingly, all of those skills that I learned applied to everything I'm doing now
So all of those things were sort of like the genesis of your ability to run your own business.
Yeah, it's amazing because in retrospect, when you look back on your education and even the jobs that you've taken, you slowly realize that every step you're taking is always leading you down some path. You just need to identify what that is.
So you take every opportunity to learn something.
Always. And I always will.
Now, so you've got your plan, okay? And was there that one moment you say, okay, that's it, I'm going to take the leap and get started?
Yeah, there was. I was working a trade show for another designer, and I was painting the name of the designer on the wall, and I decided this is the last show that I will ever do this at. And it was.
And so at that point you said that the only name that I'm ever going to paint again is my own name.
Well, not necessarily my own name, but definitely something that meant more to me and stood more to my philosophy.
That's really sort of the passion that drove you to this, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It definitely was. And I look forward to continuing to scale up into that business plan that's still on my wall.
Now, how did you raise capital?
Well, I had done some things originally. I did a Kickstarter for my original business. And my suggestion with Kickstarter is really have how you're going to allocate those dollars in mind, because it goes very fast. If you think that you need 5,000, you need 10,000. And so all of that helped me get started. But I said that was one of the moments where I had to pivot and figure out and go back to the drawing board of what I was really going to do with that. And then otherwise, I'm all self-funded, and I get one PO and I figure out what's going to go towards filling the PO, and then what's going to go to building the rest of my business.
Tell me about that one person that may have inspired you or gave you that spark.
Well, there's a lot of people in my life that definitely have helped me along the way. But when I was probably about 21, I really got a great opportunity, and it was with a woman who actually had a jewelry company. And she gave me an opportunity, not having any experience necessarily. I think that she just saw that I had a lot of charisma and a lot of passion. And I started working for her, and that was for a private label company. And they were in the process of scaling up too. And through her, I designed a lot. But her guidance, and to this day, that was almost 10 years ago now, I still talk to her. She's still a mentor. And that's why I have to say, like, there's always some person who's going to be able to guide you, even if you're not necessarily working with them all the time. So
having a mentor, having that sounding board is so important, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you don't want to be in this journey on your own.
And you can find those mentors. You could go out there and ask them, make the effort. They're probably not going to come to you. You have to really seek them.
Yeah. Now, so you've got your business open. You've got your plan. You have a direction, a vision. And so how did you take this out? How did you develop business on your own now? Now you're on your own. How did you do that?
Well, my business was really being developed still while I was working, and then so when I decided to take the leap, I hit the ground running. All of these little accounts, because I have two aspects of my business with multiple streams of revenue. So I have my retail, which is my own line, Unmarked Industries, and then I have my production and development side, where I'll do a cross collaboration with someone in a different discipline, another designer. Maybe someone makes home goods from reclaimed furniture and they want to do jewelry, and I will walk them through that process. We'll sit down, they have an idea, we'll do sketches, and I'll develop the line, and then I'll also do the production and manufacturing for that line to go. So it's kind of like when I first started it, I would have those accounts, and they were investing in me, but I was also investing in them, and I've grown those accounts over the years, just a year.
Now, was that an underserved part of the industry, these small boutique kind of companies?
Right. These were accounts that would come to me with questions when I was working for these larger brands, and I would say, hey, to my bosses, maybe we should try to help this person, or I would love to take this account on if you'll let me use the facility. And I would get a lot of no's, but I always asked. And then when I went out on my own, I circled back around and I contacted all of these people that were too small they didn't have the units to really warrant a big factory, but they were happy to work with me. And for me, the way that I structured my business at this point in my plan, it was perfect, because if you have 3 or 4 accounts that are going to pull in $10,000 to $25,000 a year, that's great for me because I have other aspects of my business right now.
Right. Right. So for somebody that doesn't have a business degree, you really figured out that having multiple streams of revenue optimized your ability then to grow your business, because while maybe one stream was falling off a bit, you had another one that would pick up, etc. And so you had diversification, right?
Right.
Diversified client base.
And it's funny. I mean, I would actually have to say that listening to podcasts like this one and reading a lot of books and stuff like that really did help me. And I learned a lot of what to do, and I tweaked my business plan based on a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, so tweaking the business plan. So really, you seem to put a lot of importance in starting out with a plan.
Well, I mean, I come from an artist background, so I have an explosive imagination and a lot of ideas. And I know because of the person I'm very passionate, I could take that passion and run down any avenue and I will be successful. So I really need that business plan so that I know that I'm succeeding at the right thing.
Right. So it keeps you on track.
Right.
Keeps you focused on the ultimate goal, your objective, right?
Yes.
So what would you say, define that objective for me?
My objective is to bring unique product using mindful manufacturing and helping to reduce our carbon footprint within the industry. I want to create a ripple effect that's going to build the foundation for an industry that I love.
Wow, that's quite a goal, quite an objective for yourself. And yet you're seemingly on the smaller side of the business, but a side that's picking up momentum and energy in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm. I think that this side of the business, which seems small, is being underestimated, because if you have a few small businesses like in this makers movement that's all going to work together, then ultimately you could really scale up. And my business plan is intended to scale up.
So it almost sounds like you're developing a cooperative.
Exactly.
And then you're the conduit to bridge the gap between these people.
Yeah, I mean, in the future, if I'm talking about my flow chart that's on my wall, I see myself eventually as an artistic or creative director that's managing different groups with different aesthetics. Maybe some of them are producing home goods, but, jewelry and different types of designs, speaking to different customers, but with the same goal in mind, to lessen our carbon footprint.
Okay, so you're continually course correcting, you're looking at different aspects of the market, but you seem to always be true to your values.
Yeah, definitely. It's an anchor for me.
Okay, so that becomes indelible. That never changes. All right?
Yes, yeah.
And so you may move this way or that to get to your objective, but those are fundamental to your business.
It's really important to me, especially from what I've learned, that you might get some doors closed in your face and you're going to have to go around them, but you need to have an unshakable core, because when people tell you no, you can't let it crumble you. You got to find a different direction. And if a door opens up that you weren't expecting, if it's going to lead to your ultimate goal, then take that opportunity. I always feel like success is when hard work and opportunity meet up. So if you're always working hard, then when that opportunity comes, you could just take it.
And your business is moving along, but so what keeps you up nights? What is that thing that sort of rumbles in your head that you toss and turn around 3 a.m.? And what is it, that one thing that you think about mostly in terms of your business?
I think a lot about customer service, a lot, because customer service and branding, because I really, really want to give my customers a great, consistent experience. And I'm talking about my B2C and my B2B. So I want to do great with my wholesale accounts. I want to do great with my retail accounts, and I want to offer great customer service to the other designers that I'm developing for and delivering their wholesale. So at night, I think I often am constantly thinking about deadlines and rewriting my calendars and contacting people who may work for me part-time and asking, is this being done or that being done? So I'm trying to really, and I've definitely gotten better with it, not to stress about that as much, because, you just got to keep track of that thing as best you can.
All right. So it's really all about, project management, planning, and time management.
Time management. And because those orders are so important, ultimately, it's how people feel. Even if the order is late, if you contacted them a week before that order was late and said, this is going to be X amount of days until ship, or would you mind a partial ship? that those people will always respect the fact that you went to them and said, this is what's happening, and keeping them up to date. And I learned that by working in product development before, because there was a lot of factories that would not do that. So the due date would come and you wouldn't receive the order, and that hurts.
Sure, I can imagine. And, you know, people want to know that you own the problem, right? Mm-hmm. All right, that you're the person in charge and you say, hey, I'm sorry, something happened.
It goes a long, long way to take responsibility for things that you make mistakes on. And also, we're all human at the end of the day. Sometimes you worry about these big accounts. I've worked with some big accounts in my career before this. You worry about them, you get really stressed about it. And then at the end of the day, the person who's on the other end of that is a human. And if you talk to them in a way that's, really owning something that went wrong, and this is what I'm going to do, bring something to the table that's going to fix it, they're a lot more forgiving.
Right. So, and that leads me to thinking about, okay, let's try to sum a few things up in terms of what one word would describe you?
I would have to say dogged.
Dogged. Okay. So persistent. You said your ability to face a no and maybe turn that into an opportunity.
Right. I mean, it's a little bit of growth mindset. It's a little bit of rough around the edges, and also knowing that, like, I'm putting this and my dreams in front of a lot of other things, and just I might be beat down sometimes, but I'm going to get back up.
So be resilient.
Yes.
Okay. And constantly remind yourself about what the ultimate goal is, I guess, right?
Yeah, the bigger picture, because that's your hope.
Right. So a message for budding entrepreneurs out there. Sort of give me an idea of what you would like them to know.
For me personally, I think that the most important thing is that even if your end goal is not where you started, if you didn't go to school for it, but you have an idea, don't let your past hinder your future. You can totally do these things. You don't know anything until you learn them. Go pick up a book, listen to a podcast, reach out to someone who might be in a similar field. All of these skills that you're learning, even if it's in a different field, are preparing you for your future. You just have to learn how to apply them.
Interesting. Was there something you wish people had told you? What was that lesson that you think, gee, if in college or in life, somebody had just told me this, it'd make a big difference for me?
I do wish that I learned a little earlier how to navigate some of the more technical things, like setting up an LLC or doing all of these things, and also knowing that in general, you can have that life that you want. You want to be a business owner, you could do that. You don't have to be like a gear in the machine. You can be the machine.
Fantastic. Well, Jen, listen, thanks so much for joining us today. I think our listeners can appreciate the passion that you have. It certainly came through in our interview. And thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Today we heard about the importance of a business plan. One of the things that Jennifer stressed in discussing starting her own business was that she had to first define a plan, create a formal objective, and define a set of values that form the foundation for her organization. And even though, as she said, you can course correct along the way, your values are indelible. We also touched on finding a mentor, a person to act as a sounding board to keep you focused and grounded. A mentor is not likely to approach you. You'll have to seek them out and develop a working relationship. And find your passion. Passion carries you through. It gives you the emotional energy to overcome the no that you're bound to hear out there in the marketplace. You are listening to In Reality, Lessons from Leaders and Entrepreneurs podcast hosted by me, John Rebecki. This podcast is executive produced by John Rebecki and New York Institute of Technology in conjunction with the School of Management and the Office of Strategic Communications and External Affairs. Our executive producer and social media strategist is Paulana Lamanier. Our audio editor is Johnny Rebecki. The director of professional enrichment and producer of this podcast is Deborah Cohen. Our graphic team is Paula Geraldo and Julia Donahue. Special thanks to Karen Marie Belknap, Jacqueline Compton, and Petra Shandaraga. Until next time.